Hi, Brendan here, and welcome to my channel. So recently, I realized something kinda scary. I got hacked. And in that moment, my brain just went completely blank. So I figured I'd share this experience with you guys. Hopefully, you never have to deal with this. But if you do, at least you won't be as confused as I was. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes, and I'll share some small tips so you can protect yourself ahead of time. Alright, enough talking, let's get into it. First, let me explain what exactly got hacked and what the hacker actually did. So, I like to work on my projects anytime, anywhere. And recently, I've been using more automation tools like N8N, Cloud Agents, stuff like that. So I built myself a little workstation using a Raspberry Pi, super cheap. Well, a year ago it was like $80. Yeah. I don't even know what my stocks have been doing these past few years. This little box lets me remotely log in anytime, write code, test deployments, run automations, all that good stuff. Until one day last month, and when I was just running npm run dev on a fresh Next.js project. What? I opened System Monitor. My CPU was literally taking off. There was this random script process sitting at 100% CPU for 30 minutes straight. Bruh. If this guy had just, I don't know, chilled a bit, not gone on my little CPU, I might even find an excuse for him myself, like, yeah, that seems normal on a tiny Raspberry Pi. And then he can stay hidden, quietly growing his little crypto stash for a long time. But instead, he chose to hack me in the most obvious way possible. The ironic part is that I actually noticed weeks ago that a bunch of my custom setups were broken, and my passwordless SSH login also stopped working. And I checked all over the place. I actually found out that my shell config files in the home directory were basically wiped. And my SSH files is also overwritten with some new keys and known hosts that I didn't recognize. And can you believe it? I actually thought, maybe my coding agent did this when I was working on God knows what I was doing. So I just restored the files and moved on. Turns out I had already been hacked at that point and didn't even realize it. Until recently, this happened. So yeah, very unfortunately, I killed the process. Wait, why did I say unfortunately? Huh? Anyway, I completely wiped out this sneaky self-restarting crypto miner. Or did I? Anyway, there isn't anything valuable on that server in the first place. Probably the most valuable thing is my collection of spaghetti code from the past few years, which might not even compile anymore. So, how did I actually get hacked? Honestly, I'm still not 100% sure. But first of all, it's not because I visited certain websites. And I also ruled out password leaks. I checked all recent login logs and nothing suspicious. And I had firewall rules to block brute force attempts. So it had to be something else. Then I suddenly recall that a long time ago, I set up port forwarding on my router to test some local deployments, and then I completely forgot about it. So most likely the hacker got in through that open port into my little server because I often ran dev servers for React or Next.js on that port. So I shut it down, reconfigured my router, reinstalled the OS, and even briefly considered moving to a new apartment. So based on this experience, let's talk about how to prevent this from happening. First, just live off the grid. Okay, I'm kidding. The idea is to always minimize your attack surface. Step 1, your router. Don't expose your IP to the public if you don't absolutely need to, and don't forget about any open ports. If you want to test local deployments, services like secure tunneling or reverse proxy should always be your first choice, like Cloudflare Tunnel or ngrok. These act as a proxy instead of exposing your home network directly, so you don't have to expose yourself to the internet. Oops, wrong clip. Now, if you really need public access, like SSH, first, don't use the default port like 22. Use something like 22222 or 21212, which is still meaningful but harder to guess. Second, disable password login. In that case, even if someone gets your password, they still can't log in. Only allow key-based authentication from your trusted devices, which is more secure and gives you a much smoother login experience every time. If you need some other forms of remote private access but can't use tunneling, there is another option called SSH port forwarding. For example, if you forward port 3000 through an SSH connection, then you don't need to expose port 3000 on your home router, but can still access it through SSH. This perfectly follows our idea of minimizing the attack surface. If you really have to open more ports, then at least use some form of protections. Oops, wrong sticker. I personally use tools like fail2ban, which is a software that monitors login attempts and bans suspicious IPs. For example, I would set something like, for repeated failed attempts within 3 minutes, puts into a blacklist. For repeated blacklisted offenders, puts into permanent ban. For permanent bans, report to the FBI. Now that we've covered how to protect ourselves, what about spotting the early signs that your device might be compromised? First, pay attention to suspicious resource usage. If your CPU is constantly at like 70 or 80% for no reason and you are not visiting certain websites, check your running processes. But for attackers that learned from this video and try not to spike usage, then we might also need to regularly monitor our background services and cron jobs. For example, you can use this command here to check register services, and this command here to see active cron jobs. Make sure there's nothing you don't recognize, and that GPT doesn't recognize either. In my case, the hacker added a cron job that kept restarting the miner. Also, if your configs suddenly change, or your shell breaks, or your SSH keys or known hosts get modified, those are big red flags. If that happens, maybe it's time to back up what you need and reinstall your system. Maybe also change your router password, and maybe move to a new house. Alright, jokes aside, that's it for this video. If you found this helpful or entertaining, drop a like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.